then I'll get it.
Okay, we're going to start the March 14th, 2018 transportation meeting. In attendance, we have Sally and Artie from representatives for roads. We have Josie and John from Klein Transportation. We have Jeff Belford, head of transportation. We have Mike Wolf and myself, Beverly Albright, and we have MEC principal Melanie Hefter in attendance. I think we wanted to start off with talking about the aid situation on the buses. So is there anyone that would like to? I'm sorry, I didn't. And Shelley's here too. I'm sorry. She's like, you didn't mention me. All right.
Save the best for last.
Yeah. So we want to start talking about the aid situation on the buses and them not being, or calling out and not being available for certain students. All right.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Well, I think we have that situation. Then we have situations where we
Turn your mic on.
we have
Yeah.
only a few students who have a bus aid in their IEP. However, there are behaviors on the bus where I'm sure the drivers would like an aid on all of those special education buses. But I don't have the staff, so that would require, I guess, the board to approve bus aids for those buses. For the students who have the aids written in their IEP, I've rearranged aid schedules and taken them out of instructional duties so they can be on a bus at 6:30 and then their day ends early, so then there's students who don't get support for the remainder of the day if they're leaving at 2 or 2:30. And the same way for the students who I need the afternoon bus aid, that aid comes in later, so there's students who don't have support in period 1 at the middle school because she starts later because that bus route ends later than her day would be. As far as the aid absences, they do put their absences in ASAP, but it's not a desired job. So, if no one picks it up, I try to move aids or put it out there to say, will someone cover that route? And again, that's adding extra hours, so that's an additional cost because they're getting more hours to cover that run. So I think those are the concerns and the issues.
What, other than the obvious, why is it not a desired job to pick up? Is it just because it's a?
Well, I think the hours are limiting.
Okay.
So if you would be the bus aide on the one run, it's, I think right now 2 to 4:30 or 2 to 5 are the hours there.
Okay.
So I think, for if someone was they're obviously a parent and they're not there for their own students, and I think that's a lot of times where the instructional assistants who we do have take the jobs are parents who live in the district.
Okay.
And then if it's the early run, that starts at 6:30. So if I've rearranged aid schedules, so if an aid is absent, typically the subs will say, well, I'll come do the instructional part, but I won't ride the bus.
Okay.
So like the one aide, her hours, she works at AEC in the emotional support classroom, but she has to ride the Vanguard Pathways run in the morning, so she starts at 6:30. So they'll pick up the job and they'll say, well, we'll only do part of it, and I can't have that. So I have to say, no, you have to, if you pick up the job, you have to start at 6:30 and be on the bus.
Okay. All right.
And as you know, the bus goes regardless.
Right, exactly. So how are we staffing that then, especially?
Well, if I have someone available, I pull someone, even if it's a substitute driver or someone from the office, we try to cover it, but
Right.
can't always do it.
And how is that impacting your drivers?
The driver, some of the runs can't go without the aid at Brianna.
Right. There's a run that goes on a Monday and a Friday because the students at HMS school all week.
We run
And-
that one
Right.
several times without an aid.
Right.
And we're okay with it.
Right, and it is okay there, and I think the concern there
the
is
new-
something would happen with the traffic, and I think that was the original reason for the bus, but, right, there is a run that absolutely cannot go without an aid, because the student,
Right.
she will be undressed and
Right,
out of her seat.
yep. Okay.
If all the runs that, the kids that have the IEPs, as long as we have an aide there, we're okay. If it's a behavioral thing, then we have to address that. But we have one bus that has an aide in the morning and not the afternoon.
Right, and that actually, and I said that she no longer needs to be even on that morning route. So I left her there because I had her scheduled, but the student who she was on there for no longer needed a bus aide.
But then we also have the situation of these wheelchair buses should have an aide regardless of who the children are, because that driver has to get off a bus with kids on.
Right.
And that shouldn't be. There should be someone on the bus with them at all times.
Which I believe is against your district policy. But if the driver has to get out of the bus
They have to
to
open the door
operate
and do the lift.
the lift.
Okay, so how many short are we necessarily? If each of those wheelchair buses had an aide, if they don't, and making sure the ones that could use one have one, are you suggesting that we should have one on every special ed bus?
No,
No, or,
mainly 92 and HMS.
What's the news story on 92?
That's
108.
that's not a wheelchair,
Right.
but that
Oh,
one,
right.
that one needs one.
Yeah, 108 needs one too, yeah.
Yes.
So it's the HMS, and there already is an aide assigned to that bus, the
okay.
HMS run. And
But she
mine,
doesn't usually come,
She doesn't always come. It's,
but we go anyway. We
right.
have to.
She's been good. She was a
They
new
haven't had
hire.
problems with
No,
her.
she's been a new hire, and I think she's used her personal day, she's used a sick day, and again, no one's picking that up. It's put into ASAP, but no one's picking that up. And then the other bus is 90, other wheelchair bus is 92,
92 is a wheelchair bus that needs it.
right?
That's the only one we're using with wheelchairs right now.
So there's just one
97,
wheelchair bus?
We're not using,
You're not using the wheelchair at 97 right now?
I don't believe so. The news story must have it.
108.
Vanguard, that's the one where the
Mhm.
police, where he should,
No, Vanguard needs to have an aide because that's an IUP.
right.
But that's not going, is
Mhm.
it? The one with the, that we
111.
call the police?
No,
No.
That one's not separate, that's a
Yeah,
different
this is
vehicle.
111.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that one.
So
So then it
is
would
that
be-
3? Is that what I'm counting, 3?
Well, we would need to hire one for 92. We would need a bus aide hired for 92.
Okay, and then you said 108,
108 has
That one
one.
has one.
one, so it doesn't need an aide. Okay,
And a
and then the
substitute.
Vanguard bus?
As long as she's there, there's some days.
Right, and that was addressed. with
Okay,
her
so-
attendance.
Is there any, like, have you ever had like a floater or somebody like extra that fills in? Is that what you're,
We have two aides hired as bus aides.
okay,
That's it. The other ones are our district aides who I've rearranged their schedule to be on the bus. So we would need to have two additional bus aides would be perfect.
so that they could go back to their duties?
Right.
Which they're, okay.
And
Right.
a sub,
And a sub.
because you have to have someone for when those people are not.
Someone willing to cover
Right.
any run.
Okay.
So you have one person though that you have on a bus that doesn't, an aide that, on a bus with a child that doesn't need an aide. Why can't that person be a floater? And cover up
We
for?
don't have that. We
I
have
thought-
two
thought they said
bus
one.
aides for the whole district.
Mhm.
So, and then we have aides on other buses where their schedules have rearranged, so they're taken out of instructional time with students, and they start early, so they leave early. So
But is-
then they're not there to support the students
Is that
either at the
legal?
beginning of the day or the end of the day.
So it's more having the coverage. So I guess, I think I know the answer to my own question, but I know the rules of normal business don't apply in an education format, okay? But if I have a shortage, all my people do the same job. And the ones that did have a different job description, I change their job description, so when I have shortages, I don't ask people, hey, who wants to go on this service trip to Saudi Arabia? I tell them you're going to Saudi Arabia, because that's part of their job. So is that
The
an
majority
option?
of our instructional assistants, when, you know, we changed everything a few years ago, the ones we kept were one-on-ones. I can't do that. I can't say to an AU who is a one-on-one with a student, oh, your student has to be without you for either the beginning of the day or the end of the day.
Okay.
Because I'm going to put you on a bus.
Okay,
But, so you have done that with the ones that you can do that with, but
Yeah.
technically those children that they work with are then missing that instructional time as well.
Right, they're supporting either an emotional support class,
Uh-huh.
right, so then it leaves just the teacher with those students at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, yes.
Plus the times are off because most of the aides are coming in at the school day.
Yeah.
And so if we need them at 6:30, we can't just tell them they're not there.
Right.
They're there
If
yet.
the district doesn't have anyone available, say something and we'll get someone hired to do the
Right,
job.
that's, you know, that would be a decision that could, I was thinking would make more sense would be for the contractors to have the bus aides, and then they would always know to have the people and then the subs to fill those positions.
That's not part of the contract.
Right, that's different.
yeah, that was gonna be my next question, Mr. Small, sitting over there. That language or provision doesn't exist in the current transportation contract. Okay,
For the aides, I think there was something too much for.
What language?
That,
that,
that is.
that it was even an option for them to supply an aid as part of their contract.
Oh, so they're
And
not even
with
supposed to
rates
do
and
that?
everything.
They're not even supposed to do that?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. If it's not in there, we can always amend it to put it there. But if there's something in there that they have to supply an aid that has rates, well, then
Right.
we know, then we already have that in the contract.
Right.
But if not, then they have to write an addendum to the contract and put those rates in, and we could do this. 100%.
Okay.
It's not part of the regular contract.
Okay. All right, so knowing that we're having our budget meeting following this, your recommendation is,
My recommendation is to have the contractors have the bus aides.
In which case, we would need to hire one additional one right now for 92. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Well, that's a,
At this point, 92, like we
Lauren.
talked about before, if another wheelchair bus is used,
Right. You would need someone for that wheelchair bus.
yeah, we can't have just a driver on a wheelchair bus, because they have to get off the bus with kids who are still on it.
But right now, just 92 is being used
Yes.
as a wheelchair bus.
It does call out sufficient personnel to provide or to perform the transportation services of the contract. Contractor shall provide
they're going to say the contractor has to pay for it.
all necessary drivers and/or transportation aids as required to perform transportation services contemplated herein.
What page are you on, Lauren?
14.
Should I add what time you join the meeting?
Did we start the other meeting?
Yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem as long as we have the approval.
Especially if it's required for the transportation services. I would say yes. Access
I know. Oh, yeah, that's what your phone's.
I think especially for a wheelchair, I mean, if the driver's away from, that would be,
That was always my understanding would be in those situations with the handicap pool.
Bus has to be running with a lift operator, so the driver has to be off.
Lauren, did you say page 14?
With 14, they're up, second paragraph from the top, bus driver personnel.
15 minutes. Yeah. Great.
section 6,
Here it
under
is, that
contract with
listing.
personnel. And it was into section A, management personnel, maintenance personnel, and bus driver personnel.
At the same time.
No,
We do
please.
have an hourly
Okay,
rate.
carry a
on that.
pen.
Yeah, there is an hourly rate included, I know that.
Where we set forth as transportation aid.
Well, we can take care of that.
So there is, just so we hear, there is in the contract provision for transportation aids with already negotiated rates. Okay, perfect. There you go.
Okay,
So,
If we get the okay
so
to,
then,
well, is she on the transportation?
she
aid?
is.
Okay, then we have 3 to make a recommendation.
Julie Olafson stepped in at 10 after.
Aren't you lucky?
Transportation. I thought you were on it.
Nope.
Oh, you just
That's
came
why.
from moral support?
You thought I just, rudely showed up late?
Yeah, I did.
So what you want to do is
She's-
I'm not on,
we get
I'm
the
not on this
recommendation,
committee.
does everyone agree with the recommendation to,
But there's only 2 of us.
she's on the transportation?
She's not.
Oh,
I thought
then
she
you can't.
was.
I'm not.
It was Bucky, and he isn't coming.
Who else? There should be, there
I'm
should be
sorry.
4.
Who was supposed to be? Bucky.
Bucky. I swear it was you, or me. I swear it was.
And just to also add, Josie just reminded me, that changes sometimes in the summer. For summer school, kids are split up differently, they're going to different places, that may require more or less needs. Just throwing that out there.
That's all I had was, the only other thing I had, and you gave me some tonight, was just to remind the drivers to do the write-ups. Because that's the only follow-through I have when there is behavior on the bus. I really do need those write-ups. I know it's a hassle for them, but I really do need it.
it's not so much that it's a hassle, sometimes if
It's Aaron
it's
and
full,
Bucky
like
that
the
are on this
minibus,
committee.
okay, that's not a problem.
Right,
Full-size buses, they don't always know, they can't write up the whole
right.
bus.
I'm talking
What do we
about
have to
the
post
Okay.
lady bus, because that's for my
You know,
issue with my
we could,
And it's-
we could talk about it. but-
Is there any way that we can get feedback as to what's done, because like that stack I gave you,
Is it okay if there was 2
Yeah,
It
or
was
we
never
can,
handed to
Mr.
the
Small,
teacher.
we want-
That's why
there,
You know,
it
there's
would be
email,
helpful if
seated
they come to
for-
me.
for
you
the
saw,
budget meeting,
it's
we
stamped
can
when it's emailed,
Talk about
I don't
this.
know who's
and
getting it
include-
though.
for Colin, that would be Dana and
That way they don't have to wait for
Okay.
a couple of weeks or whatever.
Okay.
Or I need, then they need to be shared.
Okay.
Do you get those, Jeff?
I do get them.
Can you make sure I get a copy?
I can forward
I can include you on.
Yeah, I would like any that have to do with my students, because that's the only way I can follow through with the teachers and the parents.
No problem.
Thanks.
Okay, and since we don't have the 3 board members, we just said that we'll discuss it in the budget meeting. No, we need the three on the transportation. We don't have that, so we'll forward it and discuss it at the next budget meeting, which is in 10 minutes. So,
Jeff, you'll let me know as soon as you get an answer and I
Sure.
can.
That way, that way you can hire an aide.
Show you that tomorrow.
Yeah, so would you want to transfer those other ones or have us hire additional bus aides or transfer the other ones under
Bucky's coming to
new
the
roads
budget
or
meeting.
how do you want to handle that?
No,
The ones you're using as bus aides right now?
No, I
he said he wasn't
can't,
coming to this one, I don't know.
leave them all as is except for 92, I'll cover 92.
And then you'll just make sure you're covering subs. You'll do
Yeah,
subs.
if I know there's a sub needed
Okay.
elsewhere,
We'll
yes.
just have to make sure.
Then we can decide for every this school year what we want to do next school.
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
And did we want to talk about that 2-hour delay, or have we,
I'll take
Resolved.
care
we're
of it.
good? Okay.
We do have,
Several other things. Jeff, do you have something
Okay.
that you want to say first, because yours is more important than mine is?
Well, I guess there's one little side part. I was just going to mention that we're going to do bus evacuation drills next Wednesday. So I'm going to be sending out an email to the principals. We'll just decide on that date. So we have to do it the second time in the school year in March.
Okay.
So that's going to be done then. I was also told that I was having a conversation with Kathy Haynes, and that we would need to decide tonight, because of the budget, if we're adding any additional buses for next year. And so, you know, obviously I want to be able to also start routing for next year soon. So, you know, it's going to be critical to know how many buses we're going to have for that.
And what was your suggestion of 5 new
The
buses?
suggestion before was for 5.5 buses, basically. So,
Okay.
but I obviously know what the situation is with our finances too. So obviously, you know, the board and the administration can, you know, make a decision whether they're going to add any.
Okay.
With that decision, I guess then be decided then in the budget committee, I mean, as well, or no?
We weren't planning on deciding on busing tonight. That wasn't what we're just going to go over the budget in total.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it can be discussed. But I mean, it's a recommendation that, you know, Mr. Harris and yourself and Mr. Small would come to the board and say, all right, looking at the whole picture, saying what we want to do.
Sure.
And that's based on the middle school students being the overcrowding?
Yes.
Is that mainly the,
And elementary as well.
okay. And because I know we said bus 67, we jogged some people around, was that right?
Yes, we did move some people around with some of that, yes.
And did that alleviate the problem or not totally?
Well, sometimes you move problems from one bus to another bus too.
Okay.
So, like
Okay.
bus 10 had a lot of trouble earlier in the school year, and we shifted some students in over to bus 20. So now bus 20 is a nightmare.
So it
bus.
just follows?
Yes.
Follows the students?
So the answer isn't more buses. It's that
Well,
less. That's
sometimes-
those students that got transferred being on the bus less. That's really what the answer is.
Partly that, and partly a little more space
We
between
need to have a
them.
lot more students walking if they don't know how to ride a bus. That's what it comes down to.
Well,
Well, I mean,
You have to remember too, more buses equals less time on the bus. The more buses you have, that's the more stops that you can make on other buses, which means that students are on the buses for less time. So, you know, you're saying, yes, the problem is that they need to be on the bus less time, that's true, but the way you get to that is by having more buses.
well, that's an opinion.
Right,
I mean,
right, that's my opinion.
riding the bus is a privilege. It's not a, you know, we don't have to bus. We don't have to provide transportation at all. So when these kids are acting out, we need to make sure, you know, to engage the parents, which Mr. Harris was, you know, in favor of, and engage the parents and make our problem their problem, okay? And honestly, the parents have to parent the child. The school district shouldn't be in the position where we're parenting the children. So if they want to misbehave on the bus, they want to cause problems for others, bully, cause fights, then they're going to find another way to school.
and have
then
we
it's gonna
done
be
that?
the parents.
Have we ever done that though?
Very-
Had children
very seldom.
removed from the bus? Exactly. That's not what our,
It's usually moved seats. We get those requests daily.
right,
Just moving the problem around the bus.
right.
And it still doesn't solve the problem of the driver engaging the student on the bus that day with 70 other students, 15 tons of vehicle, driving down the road, dealing with whatever it is that they're dealing with. I mean, we can come up with a lot of different ideas, but tomorrow, those buses will be out there, and those students will be misbehaving, and they'll, you know, it creates a safety issue each day that we have to deal with. So that's why, you know, some of the ideas that we've had that have been kind of generalized ideas are not working. You know, we have to do something more specific.
So what is the current, real quick, what is the current policy? Like how many write-ups do you get before you get booted off, or does it not really happen? I mean, do we need to ramp that up? I
We have
mean,
students that have been written up,
There is some that, I can give you a dozen.
how many would you say, Josie? 20 times?
there is.
Must be your policy.
But remember, there's IEPs in there, and, you know, there's a lot of different reasons why those things happen.
Right.
And
Okay.
then I just have, I know we're running short of time. I have one further thing.
Uh-huh,
Can we go on to something else?
sure.
Okay. So we have something that we'd like to discuss concerning our routing software.
Okay, before we jump into that, can we just
Yes.
stay on the count
Yes.
right now? Jenny from the middle school is going to jump in.
I just wanted to add, because we were talking about students being booted off the bus, as we said. We do remove kids from the bus for a week at a time and things like that. And in a lot of cases, that fixes the problem because the parent doesn't want to be the one to have to drive their child to school because that's an inconvenience to them. However, in some cases, it doesn't fix the problem because the child doesn't come to school then. I mean, we've had several instances this year where we removed a student from the bus for a week and the child came to school 1 or 2 days of that week. So in the case of a special education student specifically, that's a major problem. It's a major problem for any kid, but it becomes a bigger problem in that instance. So we have tried moving seats thinking that that could help because we're trying to separate kids from other kids. But ultimately, yes, I completely agree with you. We need more support from home, and in a lot of cases we get it. In some cases we don't. And then you have to make the decision whether is it more important for the kid to come to school and get an education, or are we just going to continue seeing them sitting at home and not getting to school? And that's a problem. And I can't force a parent to get in the car and bring their kid to school every day other than going the truancy route. So, which of course we can do as well, but again, the kid's missing all of that school until that ever happens, which could be, which is a big process as well. So there are a lot of other things, I just kind of wanted to add that. Our buses are there are some of our buses which are extremely crowded, where we have almost every seat 3 to a seat. That bus 20 is one example. And people don't like middle school kids. Let's be honest, middle school kids are difficult. Some days they're happy, some days they're in a bad mood, some days they smell, some days they are just rude and nasty, and other days they're sweet as pie. They're adolescents. They're going through lots of hormonal changes. They are not pleasant to deal with on some days. I know, because I do it every day. So when you put 3 kids in a seat and they're on the bus for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, closer to an hour, that's not pleasant. And not all of them are 6th graders. We're talking about a number of 8th graders. Every one of my kids at the middle school has to ride a bus. There are no kids who walk. So that's every 8th grader in my building, every 7th grader in my building, every 6th grader in my building, and some of my 6th graders are bigger than my 8th graders. They're growing all the time. So it's a very complicated situation that's sometimes not as simple as let's just make the kid have to come to school by their parent all the time. That is a solution, but sometimes it's only temporary, unfortunately, and we have to make the decision about whether it's more important for the kid to come to school or it's more important for them to actually be on the bus and hope that moving them around helps.
At some point, safety has to come into play when these same kids, that a driver today has candy bouncing off the windshield at him. That can't continue.
I completely agree with you. And we send that letter home that Mr. Harris provided us with. We make phone calls, we've met with parents. Again, like I said, there are kids that are suspended off the bus. And so we are doing everything we have the power to do at this point, aside from not providing them transportation at all, which again, we can do. I don't know if we've ever done that, but in many cases that becomes a real issue, especially if the student happens to be a special education student, which unfortunately a number of these kids are.
Jenny is 100% correct. I cannot tell you how frightening it is to drive an out-of-control school bus down the road until you've done it. And I suggest you all come ride a bus because it is frightening to deal with that sort of situation. So, we have to do what we have to do.
Okay. All right.
John, you had something else?
I did. Very quickly, we're concerned on the contractor side. We have our new software that was purchased last year. Jeff has done a wonderful job in making it work for us and doing what needs to be done. There are some inherent problems with the software that I'm concerned that Mr. Small is going to turn around and say we're in breach of contract pretty soon because we are supposed to be following the route that the software comes up with. However, it does not provide, and I don't know why, I don't know what the issue is, it's not my job, but it does not provide a route that we can use. Meaning, if it says go down Beavertown Road and make a left onto 662. You cannot do that in a school bus. And several of the routes have done that. So, or, go down Unionville Road and turn the bus around and come back the other way. You can't do that. So, we've made improvements. We've had drivers suggest the changes that need to be made. We've suggested those changes to Jeff, and he's input those changes. However, the software, at least in my opinion, does not seem to be functioning the way it functions in other districts. So, that's just us letting you know that if one day when a bus is off route, it's not off route. We are doing as best we can dealing with what we get.
And also the times.
Oh yes, it's got it.
When Jeff adds a new student to a bus route, and that might say pick up at 7-Eleven, because that's what's on the roster in the system, that bus will say, that kid missed the bus because I go through there at 7:03. And we can update the times and make it accurate. As soon as he makes a change in the bus route, it throws out all those times.
It wipes out all the times that they changed.
Now, and I will say
Do you
something.
have something to add here?
A week ago today, at the Advil conference in Hershey, I met with the transponder rep, the individual that initially presented transponder to us, shared all of these concerns with him. He assured me he's reaching out to Jeff, he's going to correct it.
Okay.
But in the meantime, all of our drivers have turned in written turn-by-turns, so it matches the roster. We're doing it in the right order, but the turns are on paper, not the ones that TransFinder is spitting out.
Well, as long as you know the right routes to take.
Right.
And like Jeff, like he said, you can override it, but then you add somebody that alters the changes.
Yes.
So as long as we're doing the right things, we're not going to have, I'm not going to have a problem with that, because you know how
It just
the
stinks
bus
that
thing.
you spent that much money on software that's not doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Let's let the contractor that are working the
I just
issue.
wanted it to be a matter of record that we are not
Gotcha.
intentionally leaving our routes.
We absolve you.
All right, we're going to end at 6:35, the transportation meeting for March 14th.